Back on, ladies and gentlemen, with news of massive infiltration bid that is going to be attempted or is being attempted by Pakistan. Foreign terrorists are present in Jammu and Kashmir and also parts of North Kashmir, including the Jammu region. Machal, Keran, Uri, Hiranagar are active areas. There's fresh infiltration that's been noticed in North Kashmir. Several Pakistani launch pads are active at the IB and also the line of control. 500 terrorists are poised for infiltration. Terrorists are highly trained, heavily armed. In fact, arms left by the US in Afghanistan are being used. This is confirmed intelligence input that we've received. Our security affairs editor Manoj Kumar Gupta getting us these details. Lashkar and Jaish terrorists are hiding in the mountains. Terrorists are using new names to hide their identity. Terrorists primarily using weapons like AK-47 and M4. Top intel sources are giving us these inputs. We have also accessed pictures of POK launch pads. Heavily trained terrorists seen before infiltration. Those are images of them trying to come across. Heavily armed terrorists waiting to infiltrate. This is all along the IB and also the LOC. Terrorists are at the forward posts of Pak Army in the Tattapani sector of POK. There is also terrorists taken to the launch pad in a Pak Army vehicle. There is confirmed intelligence on that, and there is more. The army and the cops, the forces working together, have been able to bust a terror hideout in the Rajouri sector. Terror hideout in Kalakot area has been busted. Exclusive visuals of arms and terror hideouts have been accessed here at CNN News 18. Recoveries in the upper reaches of Kalakot are now confirmed. We have access and information about all of this. Is this all building up to yet another conflict in that region? Anand Ranganathanji stays on with us, and we are also joined by Brahma Chalaniji, strategic affairs expert. My namaste and Jai Hind. Thank you for staying on with us, Dr. Ranganathan. But first to Brahma Chalaniji. Are we reading the signs correctly? This build-up that is happening, it's got all the makings of yet another conflict in that region.
Anand, it's apparent from the stepped-up terrorism in Jammu region that Pakistan is up to greater mischief. Pakistan is stepping up its infiltration of terrorists into India, and India's counter-terrorism efforts cannot succeed unless infiltration is stemmed. This is a serious issue. Now, we are mounting counter-terrorist operations in the Jammu region without inflicting costs on Pakistan. Those operations will not succeed unless we begin imposing costs on Pakistan. That's the first thing. The second is that in response to the stepped-up terrorism in the Jammu region, we have deployed more army troops in the Jammu region. Now, this is a disquieting development because the army's primary responsibility is not combating terrorism. We have several different types of paramilitary forces that should be engaged in counter-terrorism operations. The army should be there for only a short duration, and especially to inflict costs on the sponsors of terrorism across the border by carrying out cross-border raids, what in the past have been called surgical raids. Not a one-off raid, but a series of raids that seek to impose escalating costs on the sponsors of terrorism. Without these two things happening, I'm afraid treating the stepped-up terrorism as a law and order problem will get us nowhere.
But in this case, how do we tackle this? Because we are seeing this build up, Brahmachalani, and very clearly Pakistan is getting, somebody's pushing them, somebody's funding this. They themselves are bankrupt. Even if their drug money or their parallel economy money, they have to use it back in their own economic system. Is this the West trying to deliberately stir the pot here?
Well, certainly the West has not contributed to taming Pakistan. The Biden administration has rewarded Pakistan in a couple of ways. First, by um, by helping Pakistan secure IMF bailouts. Not one, but two different massive bailout packages have been granted to Pakistan, and by modernizing Pakistan's F-16 fleet to make it more lethal against India. But more likely is China, which is seeking to ease pressure on the Indo-Tibetan frontier by trying to open another front against India through Pakistan. So it's quite possible that at the instigation of China, Pakistan is doing this. As we all know, Pakistan is so bankrupt, so in such a hopeless situation economically and even politically at home, it's in a bad situation. And yet, it's up to greater mischief with India. And obviously, the only explanation for this is that external forces are behind Pakistan's mischief making against India.
Dr. Ranganathan?
I have a couple of points to make. Of course, I speak as a layman, as a common citizen, and Dr. Brahma is, of course, the expert here. But let me start by saying that, yes, of course, Pakistan has very little cost to incur while it pushes the terrorists. But again, why wouldn't it like to push terrorists towards India? Why it wants India's destruction? And I've said this before, Kashmir is a snakes and ladders game, Anand. The ladders are provided by Pakistan, but unfortunately the snakes are provided by India. Now you can provide as many ladders as you want, Pakistan can, but if the snakes weren't there in India, those terrorists wouldn't come. I ask you, India has a border with Pakistan, from the states of Kashmir, Punjab, Rajasthan, Gujarat. Why is it that only the border that is of Kashmir with Pakistan pushes these terrorists? Of course, there is homegrown support for it. So I do agree with Dr. Brahma that we have to act against Pakistan as well. I would like him to specify what would that mean. Would it be relooking at the Indus Water Treaty or what? But as far as domestic is concerned, even though after the 370 abrogation, we have seen 87% decline in stone throwing incidents, 48% decline in terror incidents, but 48% increase in ceasefire violation. So obviously Pakistan is itching to foment this, but it cannot do it if we Indians would not be supporting it. Now what do I do about that? That is also one of the solutions we have to take into account.
You make a fair point. The thing is that in our own residences, to keep our homes safe from pests, we do once a quarter pest control. Here you can't do it once in a decade or once in half a decade. So that's what Brahmachalani ji was saying right now, that we should do periodical pest control and we should do it in such a way that there is no build-up of pests that happen. But now what do we do, Brahmachalani? Final word from you, sir.
There are two options for India. One is direct military action, and other is indirect military action. Direct military action can impose quite sustained and intense costs. But a direct military action will have to be a one-off operation, and it will definitely invite Pakistani retaliation, as happened with the Balakot airstrike. But with indirect military action, which is essentially covert, you can keep imposing costs on a sustained basis, and you would have deniability. So in my view, we need to exercise option number two. And exercise number two is an option involving not just the intelligence assets. Regular army troops are trained for cross-border missions.
Right.
So we can impose all sorts of costs, but we need to impose costs on a sustained basis. Unfortunately, we have to accept the reality that despite all the big talk in India, we have not imposed the costs on Pakistan. Otherwise, there would have been no escalation of terrorism in the Jammu region.
Fair point made, sir. We have to make them